I think it depends. I think it depends what you want. If you want the social commentary, then change the first half. If you want the horror, change the second half.
Welcome back to Modern Horror Stories podcast with Jamie, Dave, and Alex. Yesterday we talked about The Tall Man, horror film from 2012. And today we're going to be talking about how we would make that film even better. As usual, kudos to the people who actually did make the film. Bringing a production together is always a massive achievement. And also, if you haven't seen the film, go and see it because there's going to be spoilers throughout this, I'm sure. So with all due respect, let's talk about how we would improve this movie. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. So one of the things that bothered me a bit was the amount of exposition. There is a huge amount of exposition in this film, and it's sort of necessary because it's got so many twists. Every time there's a twist, you've got to re-explain the context in which the film is taking place. So there's a huge amount of exposition. To be fair, one of the things that I really liked, there's admittedly a slightly irritating voiceover, but I love the idea that the voiceover was done by the girl who is mute at the start of the film. That I thought was it was a nice little device. But largely I tried to get rid of as much voiceover and as much exposition as I possibly could. There are also lots of titles, bizarre font, which I found really jarring. So yes, a lot of this kind of exposition, a lot of the titles coming up on the screen, all of that I tried to kind of not get rid of completely, but I go through it as sort of finely as I possibly could and tried to get rid of anything that didn't need to be there. The second thing that I would do is I would essentially change the film from the about halfway point, and I would create this kind of three-way struggle between the three main women in this film, who are Jessica Biel. We have the sort of mute gothic girl, and also we've got the mother of David, the real mother of David. So I'd have that as these kind of, as the second half of the film, it would be the three of them sort of facing off against each other, tricking each other, working each other out, and then we have this film where it's three people, all who have completely different relationships with motherhood, and it is their, and it becomes their film from that point on, those three characters. So that's what I do. I think the first half I can more or less keep the same because I love that halfway twist. But yeah, I'd play about quite a lot with the second half, I think.
Yeah, I like those changes. Yeah, I like those changes, Alex. I think they're good. I like the film the most out of the three of us, and so I haven't got major changes. I think at the moment the film feels like a film of two halves, which is good Jessica, bad Jessica. And I feel like maybe the big twist should come a tiny bit later, so maybe 2/3 of the way through the film, because I think it just comes just before halfway. And it's such a big plot twist. I feel like we should live with it a bit longer, live with good Jessica a bit longer before we find out. And then the last third can be the spiraling and unraveling of why she's not as good as we think. I feel like there should be a little less exposition at the end. I'm happy with the end. I think, as James said yesterday, it's really spelled out for us what's going on. Things like when money's being exchanged and someone says, no, you don't need to pay us, and all those kind of things. I mean, it's really making it mechanically obvious what's going on. And I think a little more ambiguity would be nice at the end. Also, the kidnapping of Jenny, who's the mute girl, at the end, that didn't work for me. Jenny's picked up by a stranger, bundled into a car, and then he gives, once they're in the car, after running for several hundred yards, he kind of opens the back seat and gives her the option to disappear within the car. And I felt like in that circumstance, no one would get into the car. They should just run away. And I felt it would have been nicer just to have the tall man appear as a kind of jump scare, just to see her react to that. And then she realizes he's not going to do anything. He opens the car door and gives her the option to get in or not.
Yes, I think I think that's really, really. If there'd been a sense that by the end, you've got all of this fear about the tall man, and then by the end, it's something sinister, but there's something oddly kind of benevolent about it.
Yeah, exactly. And my last change is really a tiny one, and based on something that Alex said yesterday, and that is I would give the dog a slightly different bark in the scene in which Jessica Biel hits the dog with a stone. Alex wasn't happy with the dog sound, and
I was actually quite happy with it. I found it quite funny.
Yeah, well, I don't want you to be laughing at my dog. I'm very precious of the dog casting, and I want the dog to get a little bit more respect with a slightly better sound. They're my changes.
So one of my changes includes the kidnapping of Jenny, but in a very different way. So I was thinking, so Jenny has asked for help. She knows what the tall man does, or at least she's got a very good idea of what the tall man does, and he is rescuing people, the children from this town, and she wants to be rescued from this town. She wants to be rescued from her mother's partner, who's abusive and violent, and actually has sex with her sister, and so on. And that she requests help from the tall man. And so why does the tall man kidnap her? Why doesn't the tall man just come and say, "Hello, you've asked for my help, let's go"? And the only reason I could think was that he wanted to make it quick so that he wouldn't be seen. He just wanted to quickly get her and run away with her. But then she, of course, because he just grabs her in the middle of the night,
she screams.
Yes.
It's
going to make her much more noticeable than if he just walked up to her slowly and said, "Hi, I'm Jessica Biel's husband. I can take you to Seattle." It doesn't make sense to me. Lots of things don't make sense. Why does Jessica Biel keep the children for 2 months and brainwash them into thinking that she's their mother, and then ship them off somewhere else to be brainwashed again into thinking a third person is their mother? And also, why there's so many whys? Like, why do the police? So the police arrive at Jessica's house after David's been disappeared, and we know that Jessica is the one who's abducted him and given him to the tall man. The police arrive at the house and it's nighttime, and there's the clock on the wall. There's a significant moment where the camera looks at the clock and it says 5 a.m. and it's nighttime, and the police take her out when it's daylight, and had a look at sunrise for Seattle. I'm guessing it was, you could see everybody's breath at night, so I'm guessing maybe it's around this time of year, but I checked for a few months around here, and sunrise would be about 7 a.m. So looking at a 2-hour gap there. And even if we weren't, going from night to day it takes a bit of time anyway. But during that time, not one police officer thought to take a look around the house, look in the basement. Also, you have Christine there, who's a suspected murderer and kidnapper, and they left her unsupervised and unhandcuffed, and she killed herself while the police were there. These things don't add up. None of it adds up. Or even if she had somehow managed to kill herself in the few seconds between the police arriving and getting in, the police didn't find her before that. Just none of this makes sense. Loads and loads of things don't make sense for me about how the characters behave. None of them behave like real humans. Like David's mother wearing a mask when she's taking her son back. Why is she wearing a mask? Who's she hiding from? And why, I'm sure in that big house there's more than one exit. Why does she go through the kitchen exit when that's where the two people are? Why didn't she go through another door? Maybe she wanted to take one last look at Julia before leaving. But again, why the mask? And also, yesterday I didn't say any of the things I liked about the film. the whole first half I thought was brilliant. It's really beautifully shot. Jessica Biel acts phenomenally. Everyone acts really well in this film, and her ferocious passion trying to get her son back, at least how we believe it's her son, is astonishing and so incredible to see. She fights so hard to get to David, and she's running into things, she's falling over, she's falling off a truck, she's being mauled by a dog viciously, and she just doesn't stop fighting. It's incredible to see her determination and ferocity to get her son back, but it's not her son. And it really makes me wonder why such ferocity, like she knows the game is up. Unless it's because she hasn't seen the face of the mother, which I don't understand why the mother's face isn't exposed, so she doesn't know who's kidnapping him. But then by the time she's in the diner and getting suspicious, then she knows. And when she hears the police officer talking to her, she knows. And why doesn't she just give up then? Why does she have to kidnap this one child? Out of all the millions of children in America, why is this one child so vitally important to her scheme that she's actually going to let Christine die and let herself go to the gas chamber or whatever the execution method is in Washington? Like, maybe every child counts, I get that, but at the same time, she could do more good if she thinks she's doing good by just escaping and going and helping another town.
So would your major improvement just be to keep the first half and have the film travel off in a completely different direction?
I think it depends. I think it depends what you want. If you want the social commentary, then change the first half. If you want the horror, change the second half. And I'm sure there is a way to keep both in without making it such a... I think some films you can watch and they make no sense and you can just switch off and enjoy it. And the things the characters do make no sense. The world building isn't exactly continuous, but you don't mind. It's a bit of fun and or a bit of fright, and you have a good time watching it. And some films are very cerebral and make you think and you really ponder the thoughts. And this film is desperately trying to get us to think and ponder the thoughts at the same time as having no consistent world building and no understandable characters. So it's you have to somehow figure out a way that you can switch off your intellect whilst being intellectually engaged. And I think this film, I think that's very hard to do. And the film tries to ram both into us. If it just picked one or tried to blend them a bit better, you just cut out 7 of the twists and we'd have a much better film. You could just have one false twist and one real twist, maybe, instead of hitting us with more and more and more.
If people didn't watch the review yesterday, I did like all those twists. So, so even if you're hearing this review for the first time, I think it's still worth a watch.
Oh yeah, no, I think it probably is, to be honest. It is still worth a watch. It's an interesting one. I mean, I'm probably still going to be thinking about it for another couple of hours. Disappear from my mind after that.
And on that note, if you feel like you can improve this film, drop your comments in the box below and let us know. Or maybe you think the film's perfect as it is, as I nearly do. In which case, let us know that you feel that way. Join us next time for another horror review. Hope to see you then.
I felt I was even more negative this time.
Yes, it was.
I know.
I was going to say that. That was a proper rant.
It was,
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
And the thing is, although you said I really liked the first half of the film, is then overwhelmed by everything you say then for the next 3 minutes.
One day we should do a review of our reviews.
We really should.
Oh, if I was left-handed, people could see my Fright Fest mug.
I mean, could you pretend to be left-handed for
I'd be really
12
difficult.
minutes?
My acting ability doesn't stretch to being left-handed. So